friends, I'm so excited to be reading with you today. Thank you for joining me for story time. Today we're going to be reading a book called Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon, written by Patti LaBelle and illustrated by David Cottrell. So the title of the book is the name of the book, Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon. And the author is the person who writes the words in the text or who tells the story. So the author is Patti LaBelle, who wrote the story, who's telling the story. And the illustrator of the book is the person who draws the pictures. So the illustrator is David Cottrell. He illustrated or drew the pictures. So one thing I love to do before we start reading is to make predictions about what the book will be about. So when we predict, we guess what the book's going to be about. And the fun thing about predictions is there's no wrong answers. We just get to use our imagination and be creative to guess what the book might be about. So the title or the name of the book can help us predict or guess what the book's going to be about. And the illustrations or the cover pictures can help us predict. So, based on the title, Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon, and the picture, what do you predict or guess the book might be about? I love all the predictions. I think, we know the book's going to be about a girl named Molly Lou Mellon, who looks like this, and she has to stand tall. So I know when I feel scared or shy, I want to shrink or crouch down, but when I'm proud or happy, I stand up tall. So maybe Molly Lou Mellon has to stand tall in this book. So why don't we read and see if our predictions are correct? Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon, written by Patti LaBelle, illustrated by David Cottrell. Molly Lou Mellon stood just taller than her dog and was the shortest girl in the first grade. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Walk as proudly as you can and the world will look up to you." So she did. Molly Lou Mellon had buck teeth that stuck out so far she could stack pennies on them. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Smile big and the world will smile right alongside you." So she did. Molly Lou Mellon had a voice that sounded like a bullfrog being squeezed by a boa constrictor. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Sing out clear and strong and the world will cry tears of joy." So she did. Molly Lou Mellon was often fumble-fingered. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, "Believe in yourself and the world will believe in you too." So she did. Then Molly Lou Mellon moved to a new town. She had to say goodbye to her grandma and all of her friends and start in a new school. On the first day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Shrimpo in gym class. When the game started, Molly Lou Mellon caught the football, ran under the legs of Ronald Durkin, and scored a touchdown. All the children thought, "Wow, she's good," and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the second day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Bucky-Toothed Beaver. Molly Lou Mellon took out her pennies, stacked 10 high on her teeth, and smiled as big as day. All the children smiled with glee, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the third day of school, Ronald Durkin said, "You sound like a sick duck, honk, honk." Molly Lou Mellon sang out a quack so clear and strong that it made Ronald Durkin somersault backwards, hit his head, and have to go to the nurse. All the children cried with joy to be free of Ronald Durkin for the rest of the afternoon, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the fourth day of school, Ronald Durkin said that she'd made the snowflake all wrong, but Molly Lou Mellon opened up her paper and revealed the most beautiful snowflake of all. All the children oohed and awed, even Ronald. On the fifth day of school, Ronald Durkin brought Molly Lou Mellon a stacking penny for her tooth and smiled at her. That night, Molly Lou Mellon took out a pencil and paper and wrote a letter to her grandma. "Dear Grandma, I wanted to tell you that everything you told me was exactly right. Love, Molly Lou Mellon." Wasn't that a fun book? So let's talk about the book. Characters are the people, or sometimes animals, who are in the book. So who is the main character, most important person in the book? That's right, Molly Lou Mellon. And who were two other really important characters in the book? Molly's grandma and Ronald Durkin. That's right. And what four things made Molly Lou Mellon special or different than her classmates? Do you remember? Her height, she was the smallest girl in first grade. Her teeth, she had buck teeth that stuck out straight. And her voice, like a bullfrog. And her fumble fingers. They showed a picture of her dropping everything and cutting up the snowflake into something crazy. And what 4 pieces of advice did Molly's grandma give to her? Do you remember? It's hard to remember sometimes. Since she was short, her grandma told her to walk proudly. And because of her teeth, she said, smile big, and the world will smile right back at you. And what else did she say? Because of her voice, she said, sing out clear and strong, and the world will cry tears of joy because your voice will make them so happy. What was the last thing? Even though you fumble fingers, she said, believe in yourself, and the world will believe right along with you. Those are some good pieces of advice. Let's see, what else can we think about? So Ronald Durkin, he wasn't as nice. But how did Ronald Durkin change from the beginning of the book to the end of the book? So at the beginning of the book, Ronald Durkin was a bully. He was teasing and bullying and trying to make fun of Molly and put her down. But then he was nice to her at the end. Do you remember? He gave her a stacking penny. So he gave her a present to show he was nice. So speaking of Ronald Durkin, what was the problem in the story? A lot of stories have a problem or a challenge. What was the main problem in this story? Molly had to move to a new house and a new school. And there, Ronald Durkin bullied her on the first few days of school. But how did Molly respond to this challenge? Molly took her grandma's advice, and she walked proudly, and she smiled, and she sang out clear and strong, and she believed in herself. So a lot of times there's a problem in a story, but there's also a solution. So Molly's response solved or fixed the problem. So how did Molly solve or fix the problem? She believed in herself and she stood tall, and then Ronald Durkin learned to respect her and treat her nicely too. So a lot of times there's a problem, but there's also a solution based on how we respond to the problem. So if you had to summarize, which means you have to retell or sum up the main ideas, how would you summarize or retell the story if you were explaining this book to a friend? What happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story? So first, we learn all the things that make Molly Lou Mellon different and her grandma's advice about her voice and her teeth and how tall she is and her fumble fingers. Next, She has to move to a new town and a new school where Ronald Durkin bullies her, but she takes her grandma's advice. And last, the bully's nice to Molly, so she sends her grandmother a letter telling her that everything she said was just right. Many stories teach a lesson, moral, or message. And what that means is the story teaches us something that can help us in our own lives. So the title can often be a clue as to what the message is. And also, if you just ask yourself, what did the characters in the book learn and what can I learn from their experiences to help my own life? That will tell you what the lesson, moral, or message is. So what is one thing you learned from Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon that might help you if you're experiencing problems similar to the ones that Molly Lou Mellon experienced in the book? There are so many things you can learn from this story and every story. And that's the great thing about reading, is that we can all learn something different and take something different away from the book. One thing I learned using the title as a clue, Stand Tall, is that I can stand tall or feel proud and confident in myself no matter what anyone else thinks or says or does to me. Because Molly Lou Mellon feels proud of herself and she is herself, even when Ronald Durkin's trying to put her down, and in the end, that makes him respect her and treat her nicely. So that's one thing I learned. That was one lesson, moral, or message of the book. So, since Molly Lou Mellon is proud of being unique and different, and she stands up to a bully, sometimes it's fun to think of what other stories, books, TV shows, even songs and movies remind us of this book. So have you read another story or seen a TV show or movie or heard a song that also has someone who's different or unique, or someone who stands up to a bully? Can you think of anything? There's so many wonderful stories out there that it's hard to remember them. But one story I love that maybe you know is called Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss. And that story has an elephant who stands up to a bunch of bullies, and he also takes care of someone who's different. So he protects a tiny town of tiny people, smaller than a speck of dust, from all the bullies in the town who don't believe that these tiny invisible people exist and want to just get rid of them. So that's one thing I can remember, and maybe we'll all think of more after this video is over. So now I'm gonna explain a drawing activity that you'll have time to do after this video. So Molly Lou Mellon had 4 things that made her different, special, or unique. She was short, her teeth stuck out, she had a voice like a bullfrog, and she was fumble-fingered or clumsy. So I want you guys to draw 4 things that make you different, special, or unique. Because Molly Lou Mellon could have tried to hide those things, but her grandma made her realize she should be proud of those things, because that's what made her special and important. So I want you to choose 4 things that make you different, that you can be proud of. Sometimes we want to hide the things that make us different and try to be the same as everyone else, but the world would be a very, very boring place if everyone was the same. What makes us different is what makes us important to other people. And it's actually what we can use to make a difference in the world and change the world for the better. So one example I can think of is one of the most famous chefs in the world, or one of the most famous restaurants in the world, talked about when he was a boy and a teenager, everyone made fun of him. All his friends and family made fun of him because he didn't want to play sports after school. He wanted to join home ec and he wanted to cook after school. But he didn't care that he was different, and he didn't care that people didn't like that he was different, and that even his friends and family made fun of him. He chose to be proud of what made him different, and because of it, he's one of the most famous chefs at one of the most famous restaurants in the world. So before you start, I'll share 4 things that I can think of for myself, and hopefully it'll help you guys think of some things. So in my drawing, one thing I'll draw is a teardrop for crying, because one thing about me that I used to try to hide that made me different, but now I'm proud of, is that I'm what people say is sensitive. Sensitive is when if someone says something insensitive or mean, it hurts my feelings and it makes me upset, and maybe even makes me cry, which you may know people like to make fun of if you get upset, if they're teasing or bullying. But now I'm proud to be sensitive, because what that means is I'm sensitive to how other people feel. I would never say something insensitive to hurt someone's feelings. I say things to make people feel good, not bad. So I'm proud to be sensitive. Another thing I might draw is an outline of my hands, because I have big hands and feet, which is another thing that made me different, but I'm very proud of because it makes me feel strong and powerful and fast. A third thing I might draw is a picture of a book, because sometimes I'd rather be by myself with a book than in a big group of people. I'm a little shy that way, and I'm proud of that, because what I love doing is reading and getting to read books with you and make lessons for kids like you. So I'm proud of that, and it's what helps me give my gifts to the world. And a 4th thing I might draw is 2 hearts that are connected, because I have an identical twin sister who people think looks just like me. So those are 4 things about me that make me different, that maybe I want to hide or maybe make me different, but I'm actually very proud of, and it's what makes me special, important, and unique, and helps me have an important impact on the world to make the world a better place. So hopefully that helps you think of 4 things about you that make you different, special, or unique, that instead of hiding, you can choose to feel proud of.